The Queen of Sheba is one of the most fascinating figures in ancient history and biblical lore. Known in Ethiopian tradition as Makeda, she was a powerful and wise ruler who led Ethiopia during a time when it was one of the most prosperous kingdoms in the world. Her legendary visit to King Solomon in Jerusalem has captivated imaginations for centuries, raising questions about her influence, her relationship with Solomon, and the legacy she left behind. But who was the Queen of Sheba, and how long did she reign over Ethiopia? Was her visit to Solomon merely a diplomatic mission, or was there a deeper connection between these two powerful figures? Could their union have produced a child who would go on to shape the course of Ethiopian history? And what does her story teach us today about the role of women in history, leadership, and the connections between Africa and the ancient world? In this exploration, we will delve into the life of the Queen of Sheba, her reign, her relationship with King Solomon, and the lasting impact she had on Ethiopia and the world. By the end of this journey, you may find that the Queen of Sheba was not only a key figure in ancient history, but also a symbol of the enduring power and wisdom of African women. The Queen of Sheba is first introduced in the Bible in 1 Kings 10:1-13 and 2 Chronicles 9:1-12, where she's described as a ruler who came to Jerusalem to test King Solomon's wisdom. However, her story is much richer and more complex than these brief mentions suggest. In Ethiopian tradition, the Queen of Sheba is known as Makeda, and she is revered as a foundational figure in Ethiopian history. The Kebra Nagast, the Glory of Kings, an ancient Ethiopian text, provides a detailed account of her life, reign, and relationship with Solomon. According to this tradition, Makeda ruled Ethiopia during the 10th century BC, a period marked by great wealth, cultural richness, and political influence. While the Bible doesn't specify the length of her reign, the Kebra Nagast suggests that she ruled for many years, possibly even decades, solidifying Ethiopia's status as a cultural and economic powerhouse in Africa. Her kingdom was known for its wealth, particularly in gold, spices, and precious stones, which she brought as gifts to Solomon. The grandeur of her reign is reflected in her ability to embark on such a significant journey to Jerusalem, accompanied by a great retinue and laden with treasures. But Makeda was more than just a wealthy queen. She was also a wise and capable leader. Her reign likely played a crucial role in establishing Ethiopia as a significant player in the ancient world, a position that would influence the region for centuries to come. The meeting between the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon is one of the most intriguing encounters in the Bible. The scriptures tell us that she came to test Solomon's wisdom with hard questions, bringing with her spices, gold, and precious stones as gifts. 1 Kings 10:2. Solomon, renowned for his wisdom, answered all her questions, and she was deeply impressed by his knowledge and the splendor of his kingdom. But was their relationship purely intellectual and diplomatic, or was there something more? The Bible is silent on any romantic involvement, but Ethiopian tradition suggests a much deeper connection between the two. According to the Kebra Nagast, the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon were not just allies or acquaintances. They were lovers. This relationship is said to have produced a son, Menelik Fit, who would later become the first emperor of Ethiopia. The Kebra Nagast recounts that after their time together, Makeda returned to Ethiopia pregnant with Solomon's child. When Menelik I grew up, he traveled to Jerusalem to meet his father, Solomon. It is said that upon his return to Ethiopia, Menelik brought with him the Ark of the Covenant, one of the most sacred artifacts in Jewish history, establishing a sacred lineage that would continue to shape Ethiopian identity and religious tradition. This story, though not found in the Bible, is a cornerstone of Ethiopian tradition and has been passed down through generations. If true, the relationship between the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon was not just a meeting of minds, but also a union that created a dynasty with deep spiritual and historical significance. The question of whether the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon had a child together is one of the most compelling aspects of their story. Ethiopian tradition holds that their son Menelik I became the first emperor of Ethiopia and established the Solomonic dynasty that would rule Ethiopia for centuries. The Kebra Nargast details how Menelik Bide returned to Jerusalem as a young man and was recognized by Solomon as his son. According to the text, Menelik was given the Ark of the Covenant by divine intervention and brought it back to Ethiopia, where it is believed to remain to this day, housed in the Church of Our Lady, Mary of Zion, in Axum. If this story is more than just legend, it suggests that the union between the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon had profound implications for the history of Ethiopia and the Jewish people. The presence of the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia would establish a sacred connection between the two nations and reinforce Ethiopia's unique place in the biblical narrative. The idea that Menelik I established a Solomonic dynasty that ruled Ethiopia for almost 3,000 years until the fall of Emperor Haile Selassie in 1974 adds to the significance of this union. It would mean that the legacy of the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon is not only a story of love and diplomacy, but also the foundation of a powerful and enduring empire. The impact of the Queen of Sheba on Ethiopia and the broader world cannot be overstated. Her reign is remembered not only for her wisdom and wealth, but also for her leadership and the cultural exchange she initiated with King Solomon. By traveling to Jerusalem and engaging with Solomon, the Queen of Sheba opened a channel of diplomacy and trade between two great civilizations. The exchange of goods, ideas, and culture likely had a lasting influence on both Ethiopia and Israel. The wealth she brought to Solomon is noted in the Bible as being unmatched by any other ruler, indicating the economic power of her kingdom. But beyond economics, the Queen of Sheba's visit may have had significant religious implications. Ethiopian tradition holds that she introduced Judaism to her people, a faith that would later influence the development of Ethiopian Christianity. The presence of the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia, if true, symbolizes a deep spiritual connection between Ethiopia and the Jewish faith. This unique blend of Judaic and Christian traditions would shape Ethiopia's religious identity for centuries. Ethiopia became one of the first nations to adopt Christianity, and the Ethiopian Orthodox Church remains one of the oldest Christian denominations in the world. The Queen of Sheba's legacy, therefore, is not just a story of a wise and wealthy queen, but also a foundational figure in the religious and cultural history of Ethiopia. The story of the Queen of Sheba is more than just an ancient tale. It is a powerful reminder of the influence of African women in history, a narrative that has often been overlooked or minimized in traditional accounts. Her wisdom, leadership, and relationship with Solomon challenge the conventional narratives of power, race, and gender in the Bible. The Queen of Sheba's story shows us that women, particularly African women, played crucial roles in shaping the political and spiritual landscapes of the ancient world. Her visit to Solomon is a testament to her intellect and her ability to engage with one of the wisest men in history on equal terms. In a world that often underestimates the power of women, the Queen of Sheba's example is one of strength, intelligence, and diplomacy. Her story encourages us to recognize and celebrate the contributions of women in all areas of life, from leadership to scholarship to spirituality. Moreover, Her story invites us to reconsider the connections between Africa and the ancient world. The Queen of Sheba's African heritage is a reminder that Africa has always been an integral part of the global historical narrative, contributing to the development of civilizations, religions, and cultures. The Queen of Sheba's reign likely played a pivotal role in Ethiopia's emergence as a powerful kingdom in the ancient world. Her leadership, wealth, and diplomatic skills positioned Ethiopia as a significant cultural and economic force in Africa and beyond. By engaging with King Solomon, she not only showcased Ethiopia's wealth, but also its intellectual and political sophistication. Her ability to navigate the complexities of international relations, as well as her rumored connection to Solomon, may have laid the groundwork for Ethiopia's long-standing prominence in the region. If the story of her son Menelik I is true, then her legacy includes the establishment of a dynasty that would influence Ethiopian history for millennia. The Solomonic dynasty, tracing its lineage back to Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, became a symbol of Ethiopian identity and continuity, surviving through centuries of change and challenge. In this light, the Queen of Sheba can be seen as the true power behind Ethiopia's rise, a leader whose influence shaped not only her own kingdom, but also the broader history of Africa and the Middle East. The Queen of Sheba's visit to Solomon is more than just a meeting between two rulers. It represents a significant moment of cultural exchange and diplomatic relations between Africa and Israel. Her journey to Jerusalem and her interaction with Solomon may have forged a bond between the two regions that extended beyond mere politics. If the Ethiopian tradition is correct, and her visit resulted in the birth of Menelik I, then the bond between Ethiopia and Israel was not only diplomatic, but also familial. The idea that the Ark of the Covenant was brought to Ethiopia by Menelik suggests a deep spiritual connection that transcended borders and cultures. This bond, whether real or symbolic, highlights the interconnectedness of ancient civilizations and the ways in which African and Middle Eastern histories are intertwined. The Queen of Sheba's story serves as a reminder of the shared heritage between Africa and Israel, a heritage that has influenced the development of both regions for centuries. The Ark of the Covenant is one of the most sacred and mysterious artifacts in biblical history. According to the Bible, it was the physical manifestation of God's presence among the Israelites, housing the 10 Commandments and serving as a powerful symbol of the covenant between God and his people. The Ethiopian tradition that the Ark was brought to Ethiopia by Menelik I is both fascinating and controversial. If true, it would mean that Ethiopia has been the guardian of this sacred relic for thousands of years. The idea that the Ark resides in Ethiopia, specifically in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum, is a deeply held belief in Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity. Whether or not the Ark is actually in Ethiopia, the belief in its presence has had a profound impact on Ethiopian identity and religious practice. It has reinforced Ethiopia's connection to the biblical narrative and its role as a custodian of ancient traditions. The story of the Ark in Ethiopia also underscores the idea that Africa has been and continues to be a vital part of the Judeo-Christian heritage. The Queen of Sheba, known as Makeda in Ethiopian tradition, is a figure of immense historical and cultural significance. Her reign over Ethiopia during a time of great prosperity, her relationship with King Solomon, and the legacy of their union continue to captivate and inspire. Her story challenges us to reconsider the role of African women in history and the impact they have had on the world. It invites us to explore the connections between Africa and the Middle East and to recognize the contributions of African civilizations to the broader biblical narrative. The Queen of Sheba's wisdom, leadership, and influence are a testament to the power of women to shape history and to the enduring connections between cultures and peoples. Her legacy is one that continues to resonate today, reminding us of the richness and diversity of our shared human heritage. If the story of the Queen of Sheba has inspired you, take the time to learn more about the rich history of Ethiopia and its contributions to the world. Share this narrative with others and subscribe for more explorations into the untold stories of powerful figures in history. Together, let's uncover the hidden legacies that have shaped our world and continue to influence us today.